What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Father-Son Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Paul.
My name is Justin. If this is your first time listening, guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button to know when we post episodes. We're keeping these going all season long to help you know who to start, know who to pick up, trading or not trading away, and hopefully winning you guys your leagues. Unless you're in a league with us, then you're not going to win probably. But we'll see how that goes. So we did another My Guys episode today. We had Eric Moody from Rotoviz on. He's a great guy in the community, really active on Twitter with answering questions and stuff like that. So really happy to finally get him on and get his takes on some players. He even had a bonus player in here for you and a couple bonus players, actually, we did. I think we have a total of like 12 guys in this one.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Definitely,
Eric was good.
Definitely good. I got some late round wide receivers for you guys to look at.
We didn't even have too much disagreements on this episode.
Yeah, a little bit. Your picks always I question, but it's okay. It's all right. You guys follow me on Twitter at JustinFSFF, and the podcast Twitter's at FatherSonFF. I'll follow you back there. We got a couple more, I think 1 or 2 more episodes, Dad, for season long, and then we're going to go right to week 1 because week 1 is less than a week away, so we'll probably get that content coming out real soon. And I can't wait.
Subscriber League is in 2 days when we're recording this.
Yeah,
I can't wait for that.
Subscriber League, I think when they listen to this will be tomorrow.
I can't wait.
It's probably going up on Sunday or something. So we'll see how this goes. I hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure you go check out the description below to find Eric on Twitter. It's Eric N. Moody. So make sure you guys follow him if you haven't already. And I say we get into this My Guys episode, Ed.
Let's get into it.
All right, what's going on, everybody? And today we are doing another My Guys episode, and we are joined by Eric Moody, contributor for Rotoviz, Gridiron Experts, 2 QBs, and also Fantasy Pros. What's going on, Eric?
What's up, Eric? How are you doing?
Oh, hey, I'm doing fantastic. I'm happy that we're heading into our Labor Day weekend. It's kind of one of those weekends that kind of snuck up on me. I don't have any major plans, so I'll be looking forward to just relax, but most importantly, looking forward to football officially starting next week.
Yes.
Can't believe it. Starting already.
Less than a week away. Oh, I can't wait. You got any more drafts out there, Eric, or are you almost done with all your big ones?
No, I'm all done. Yeah, I took part in some best ball leagues hosted on the FFPC with Rotoviz writers and listeners, but also just in some industry leagues. I know it's one that Mike Clay put together, Fantasy Sports Writers Association, Going Deep League. I participated in that, but also Jeff Hazley from Football Guys, he put together a number of different leagues with experts that he was writing some articles on. So I participated in 3 of those. So all of these were slow drafts. So at one point in time, I did have like 6 or 7 slow drafts I was participating in. Fun times.
Wow. Busy guy.
That's busy. That's busy.
High stakes leagues to the FFPC. We see that. So this guy knows his stuff. If you guys don't know who he is, you can follow him on Twitter at Eric Moody, Eric N. Moody. I'll have that link in the description below. So we are doing My Guys again. We just did one with Joe Pisapia. We're going to give you guys 3 more guys each. Basically guys we want to target in every draft and guys we love for this upcoming fantasy football season from a redraft PPR perspective. Dad, you want to kick it off with your first guy?
I can do that. Okay. My first guy is going to be a running back. Royce Freeman. Look, you keep hearing things about Devontae Booker. I just heard it again the other day that he's going to start. What else does Royce Freeman have to do? I understand he's a rookie, but look what he's done in preseason already. He scored a touchdown in every game. I think he racked up just under 100 yards. I mean, Booker couldn't even get the starting job last year. I don't know what all the talk is about how he's going to start. Even if he does, it's not going to last long. He's going to separate himself as the feature back before long, and I've been saying this since the NFL draft, since they drafted him. He's moved up into the top 50 in ADP and is going 2 rounds earlier than he was a month ago. He has potential to be a 3-down workhorse back. He has very good pass protection. He has good vision, and he isn't an easy person to take down, and he can also catch balls out of the backfield. He's a guy that I'm targeting in almost every draft.
Yeah, the love for Royce Freeman you've had since the beginning of the season. But
I've been saying it. I don't understand what all the talk is on Booker. Somebody help me out with that.
What does Eric got to say about the Royce Freeman pick for the My Guys?
No, I like Royce Freeman a lot. You could tell from the film, especially during the preseason, that he separated himself from Devontae Booker. He was obviously more effective. It could be just one of those kind of coach speak plays where they're like, we want to give the veteran, the nod. But I do believe at the end of the year, Royce Freeman will end up out-touching and outperforming Devontae Booker.
Yeah, I do like Royce Freeman a lot. I just get annoyed with this coaching Vance Joseph thing saying how Devontae Booker should start when clearly Royce Freeman does look more dominant. But the thing comes down to his volume. If they're going to keep saying Devontae Booker is somehow the starter, then, it's going to hurt Royce Freeman's volume. And he's going in the third round of drafts now where he was going in the sixth round. And
yeah, he's moving way up. I mean, look, Booker's going to have some value in probably the passing. He's probably a better pass catcher, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, no. Booker is a better pass catcher, I think, but it's also preseason, so you see second string guys trying to tackle Freeman. So some of those missed tackles forced could be because of that. But it should be Royce Freeman's job. I think he's going to win it by the end of the season. But paying at a third round price, I'm probably avoiding him in all drafts. That I can't.
Oh, that's okay. I think coming into the draft, it's an excellent situation for him going to Denver because he has opportunity right there.
Yeah, the opportunity is there. They have, I think, over 250 carries missing from the backfield. So there's that.
Eric, pass him up. I'll take him.
I'm not going to take him in the third round. I had a draft the other night. He went at the 301. I was like, nope, not taking him.
Well, he's moving up. People are getting the cue. They must be listening to our podcast.
Overreacting to preseason.
Or that.
So, Eric, who's your first my guy for the season?
I want to keep the trend with running backs going. One of my guys early in the draft is Leonard Fournette.
Oh, wow.
The biggest asset that Fournette has is volume. I do love his average draft position. He's a guy, if you're drafting in the latter part, the first round, that you can get right there at the turn. I've even seen some leagues where he's been at the top of the second. So as a rookie, he averaged, nearly 21 rushing attempts and 17.7 fantasy points per game. The great news is that he should continue to see a high number of touches per game, considering he doesn't have any serious competition for snaps, after Chris Ivory's moved on. But I think that actions speak louder than words. And if you look at the Jaguars front office with what they did in the in free agency period, where they had the big signing of offensive guard Andrew Norvell, it suggests that the Jaguars will continue to be a run-first team. One area of opportunity, which many may point out, will be Fournette's efficiency. He was below average on numerous efficiency metrics, including rushing fantasy points over expectation. I believe he can improve in that area, especially with having his first NFL offseason under his belt, which I think is something that's often not looked at. As a collegiate player, on the 1AA level at least, I can just notice that transition from going to high school, to college. So I can only imagine that transition from going to college to the NFL. But with having an off season underneath your belt, it really makes a difference going into a year two. And the reports and feedback out of Jacksonville have been very positive on Fournette, which is a good thing for his fantasy value. I just think he's a heck of a value at the end of the first round, and he can greatly outperform his ADP at this point. So he's one of my guys.
One of your guys. What do you guys say about Fournette this season?
Well, I couldn't agree with him more. His only problem is his durability. If he can stay healthy, we say it all the time, he can produce RB1 numbers for your fantasy squad. He could even be in the top running back as far as rushing attempts goes this year. He's going to benefit from running behind a strong offensive line. I believe Jacksonville returns 4 or 5 starters, so they're going to help him. I like Fournette myself.
Yeah, I love Fournette this year. I think Norwell helps a lot. You saw Leonard Fournette last year struggle going to the left guard side. This is from Adam Spinks, the running back scout, and now you got Norwell who goes in there, and over the last 32 games, he has a 48% rush attempt success to the gap compared to Fournette's last year when going to the left guard, only at 38%. So that's a big improvement. The reports that he shed at weight, you saw in that preseason game against the Falcons, he looked light on his feet. So I think Leonard Fournette's going to be a great value at the end of the first and sometimes in the second. And he's going to get you probably going to compete for the leading the league in carries behind Zeke this year.
I believe because only Le'Veon Bell and Ezekiel Elliott racked up more carries and total touches per game last year. Yeah. So he could be the number one in that department this year very easily.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. I want to see it happen. I like Leonard Fournette as a player. He doesn't look like a fast guy, but he did post to higher speed scores than Tyreek Hill last year, so that's saying something.
He lost some weight too, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
18 pounds, I think it was.
That's a lot for a running back.
Yeah, you like to see that. So I'll kick it off I'll stick with the running back trend, I guess. We'll do 3 running backs right here. And my guy is not going as early as Fournette or Royce Freeman, but this is a guy that you can have in drafts almost to a free point. He's currently going in the 12th round, and that is Jordan Wilkins, running back for Indianapolis. This guy I'm trying to get in every single draft because he's free, and you saw in the 4th preseason game that Wilkins sat out, and I think that said something about how they value this guy. And Christian Michael, he got the carries in the finale. And everyone's saying, oh, it's Marlon Mack's job when he comes back. But I think Marlon Mack is just awful. According to PFF, Indianapolis Colts running back Marlon Mack has been stopped for either no gain or negative yardage on 34.1% of his rushing attempts. And that was the highest rate among all running backs with at least 75 carries. He's still nursing that hamstring injury, and those tend to linger on during the season. I like Nyheim Hines, but I mean, I'll take a free shot at him later. His stock has just fall off because of the fumbling concerns in the preseason. But Wilkins, I mean, he played in the SEC. He doesn't have those standout athletic measurables on playerprofile.com, but I'm not really concerned about that because volume does trump all. And in college at Ole Miss, you saw him have elite efficiency. This is from Derek Brown. Another shout out to at Dbro. And during his final season, Wilkins had 1,252 yards and 10 touchdowns on 181 touches. That was 6.5 yards per carry and tied for 11th out of 120 backs with at least 120 rushing attempts. This guy was more efficient. He was actually tied with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, and he ranked just ahead of Leonard Fournette back to college. And he showed time and time again that when he gets the opportunity, he is an extremely productive player. And you saw the Colts go out and get Quentin Nelson and Braden Smith in 2 of their first 3 picks. Quentin Nelson is one of the best run-blocking guards the draft has ever seen, possibly the best. So you got Andrew Luck coming back, so the boxes won't be stacked, and you got a really good offensive line, and they're going to have more attempts on offense because their defense is not that good. So I'm taking the cheap volume play in the 12th round, and Jordan Wilkins is going to be running back 4 for my team and possibly had those flex upside weeks. I'll let whoever wants to hit on that first hit on that.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I'll hit on it. I know the Colts, think about the Colts backfield. You got Marlon Mack that's there. The Colts passed on a number of high-profile backs early in the draft. They selected, Hines in the 4th, I believe, and then Wilkins in the 5th. My big concern with Wilkins has to do with the offensive scheme. You think about the new head coach, Frank Reich. Loves to play mismatches with his backs, just to get them involved, as a receivers out of the backfield. But I know Wilkins, he only had, 6 receptions, in limited playing time over 2015 to 2016. But even when he was featured last year, he only had 26 catches. He just doesn't fit the profile of someone that Reich is going to leverage in that offense. And then also, too, with Player Profiler, his closest comparison is Mike Gillislee, which just doesn't bode well. I'm thinking about the realm of possibilities for Wilkins.
Yeah, there's definitely a downside for it. The concern, I think just the volume's going to be there, so I'm taking the cheap volume play, and I think that if he were to, say, have a good couple of games, I think he can take the role and run away with it. But I think they're all going to be involved, and you're probably looking at a committee here at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, the problem here too is Marlon Mack he's hurt right now. Am I correct? Still hurt?
Yep, still hurt.
And Nyheim Hines, he can't hold on to the ball. So Wilkins got his opportunity. So I don't mind that late flyer because he's a sneaky bet to lead the Colts backfield this year. I mean, the Colts picked him in the 5th round. They got Hines in the 4th, like Eric said, 2 running backs. Somebody's going to lead that backfield or just be a committee. I think at Ole Miss, he averaged 6.5 yards per carry, I believe.
I said that.
Which is not bad. So,
yeah.
I mean, he's a good late round flyer.
Yeah, he's efficient. He's basically free in drafts. So, whatever strategy you want to do, 0 RB, 0 wide receiver, you can just add him to your bench. And
he's a good late round flyer. Absolutely.
Let's see. So, Dad, who is your second and my guy?
All right. I'm going to shock you with this one. Marvin Jones, wide receiver. I believe he's severely undervalued, and I don't understand why. Last year, he finished as a wide receiver 12 in PPR. He had 61 receptions on 107 targets for 1,101 yards and 9 touchdowns. Look, the offense is still going to go through Matthew Stafford, so I think his target share will be similar. He might be a little less with Galladay back. I understand people are worried about Kenny Galladay taking receptions and touchdowns away from Jones. But keep this in mind that Jones has built an excellent chemistry with Stafford, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. When you look at the Lions' schedule, I see a lot of games where they will rely on Stafford's arm to keep him in the game. Even if Marvin Jones falls off a bit, he should still finish inside the top 20. He has proven that he could be a wide receiver 1 in this offense. I'll be drafting Marvin Jones as a wide receiver 2. I have no problem getting him before his ADP.
I'm going to let you do that again in drafts.
I'm not scared of Galladay.
I'm not taking him top 20, dude. Top 20.
I'm not scared of Galladay.
Oh, my gosh. You should be.
Nope.
All right, what do you guys say about that, Eric? I'll hit on that after. I mean, oh, my gosh. Top 20. Jeez.
Yeah, I'm a Kenny Galladay guy.
Yes.
Just given his ADP, I think a lot of people will kind of lean towards Marvin Jones, just based on his body of work. But I think Galladay is going to break out this season. Another quick nugget. Hopefully, it'll fully come to my memory here from my sharp football stats. I believe my memory serves me right. The Lions ran the 4th most plays in 3 wide receiver sets in 2017. So I think that's another area that bodes very well, for getting Galladay on the field more this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's all Kenny Galladay this year. You saw in that 5 games with Kenny Galladay. Without Kenny Galladay, Marvin Jones has had 2 more receptions and about 4 more targets per game. So I think Kenny Galladay does eat into that, which makes Marvin Jones not top 20. I could see top 36 still, probably top 30. But Kenny Galladay is going to hurt him, and I think Marvin Jones is a little touchdown dependent. But he is a really good contested catch rate. I think the best in the league. And then you also
he's one of the best deep ball threats in the league. I'm not worried about his touchdowns.
He also had the most completed air yards last season, so he's going to be the guy that Matthew Stafford looks to just gun the ball down the field. But I think all 3 wide receivers carry their own value, and I'm avoiding Marvin Jones just due to cost. I'd rather have Golden Tate at his cost and then Galladay at his cost rather than Jones at his wide receiver 24 cost.
I'll add one more quick nugget, which came to mind too. Is you think about the departure of Eric Ebron. I mean, there's going to be plenty of targets, in this offense, for all 3 of these guys.
Sure.
So essentially, one play could just be to take, the guy that's available. But I think the targets will be there they can all be very productive. It just comes down to the cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And Galladay could threaten Jones' volume. I mean, he's like you said, Ebron's gone, so I think there's going to be enough throws around to all 3 of them guys.
I think the main takeaway here is get Matthew Stafford because these weapons look really, really good, and they're going to air the ball out. So I like Matthew Stafford a lot this year. He's not one of my guys, but I do like him. So, Eric, who's your second my guy?
You know what? I tend to follow the trend here. So, I was thinking wide receiver, so we'll go ahead and keep that trend going. Let's see. So many options, especially in the middle rounds. Wide receivers so deep this year. One guy I will discuss, if you give me a chance, I made the mention 2, just, spoiler alert, is Emmanuel Sanders. He's a guy that I'm targeting quite heavily in drafts. I think he's an excellent bounce-back candidate in Denver. Got a new QB, Case Keenum, in town. He's under center now. Really, Sanders will look to get back on track after being limited to 12 games last year. If you look at the numbers, he posted his worst statistical season since 2012. Now, Sanders only had 2 weeks where he finished as a top 24 receiver in PPR formats last year after doing it 5 times the previous season. But he's been really productive during his time in Denver. If you look at his numbers from 2014 to 2016, he's averaged nearly 9 targets a game, 5 to 6 receptions, and then anywhere from like 69 to 87 receiving yards. Obviously, that high point per game was back in 2014. But if you look in 2016, it was nearly 69 yards per game. When you look at PPR points, just to bring all that together, I'm like, even back in 2016, he averaged 14 points per game, 15 in 2015, and then in 2014, nearly 19 points. You think about risk, because you got to measure that risk reward. I think the biggest risk that Sanders faces this year is a healthy Demaryius Thomas, who's really been cranking out production since 2012. He's averaged nearly 10 targets, 6 receptions, 81.4 receiving yards since that time frame. Keenum was able, to support 2 top 20 PPR wide receivers last year, Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs. But I think Sanders is a really good bet to bounce back this year. He's got a great ADP. He's a guy that can greatly outperform his average draft position right now. So highly recommend it.
Yeah, he's going the same spot as Marvin Jones according to Fantasy Football Calculator. He's going to the 5-12 spot, 27th and 28th wide receiver. I like him a lot more than Marvin Jones did, and like I've been saying, I think he outscores Demaryius Thomas head-to-head this year. I mean, the slot lineup percentage so far this preseason has been 70%, and that's typically where Sanders has been his whole career, whereas Demaryius Thomas lines up on the outside like 81%, I believe the right number is, and then Case Keenum leads the league in targeting the slot, 25%, and that's Sanders' role, and you see it in the preseason. Looks to be a big part of this offense this year, and the price is perfect in the late fifth round. I don't mind taking him in the late fourth, honestly, because the volume's going to be there, and the upside is also there. So what do you guys say about Sanders, Dad?
No, I agree with Eric a bunch right there, because he was on our My Guys episode, the last episode, and he basically said everything that was said about him, how Keenan supported a pair of two top 20 wide receivers in Thielen and Diggs. So the addition of Case Keenum, if he can provide consistent QB play, Sanders should return to wide receiver 2 territory. And if Keenan looks like the guy we saw in Minnesota last year, Sanders could flirt with wide receiver 1 production very easily. So Sanders is another great My Guys.
All right, yeah, I mean, I love it. And I'll stay on the trend right here with the wide receivers for my second My Guy, and it's got to be Keelan Cole. I'm on this guy heavily this year. You see Marquise Lee go down with the injury, unfortunately. So I think that bumps up all receiving options in this offense, especially Keelan Cole and D.D. Westbrook. But I'm going to have to take the Keelan Cole side on this just because I love him. You saw at the end of the last season, the whole season he averaged 2.16 fantasy points per touch, 997 air yards on 83 targets. To put that in perspective, Hopkins led the NFL in air yards last season with 2,243 total air yards on 174 targets. So if you bump those targets up, he's almost going head-to-head with DeAndre Hopkins in that. He also led in the league in receiving yards in the last 5 weeks of this season with 475 yards. It's a little bit of a small sample size, but I'm buying it. And the people can say his combine speeds were slow, but per Josh Hermsmeyer's Game Speed app, he was actually just as fast and faster than Tyreek Hill at certain distances on the field. Last season, you can look at the splits with Marquise Lee and without. It's only a 3-game sample size, but in split with Marquise Lee, he only had 6 points per game in only 4 targets, and without Marquise Lee, you saw him get 18.57 points per game and 10 targets per game. So everything just goes up. I understand they're going to run the ball a lot with Fournette, but I believe Cole is the guy to own. He also had a 69.9% success rate versus man coverage per Matt Harmon's reception perception. So I'm buying into all the Keelan Cole, and there's also a little nugget out there that all he doesn't have any cable or Hulu or Netflix at all at home, and all he does is watch YouTube videos, and that's primarily to study out of your wide receivers. So you like to see a guy's mindset in the right spot, and I think he's going to lead the team in receiving yards this year, and he can be a top 24 wide receiver. That's my bold prediction. So whoever wants to talk about that, the floor is yours.
Go ahead, Eric.
No, I do agree. About Keelan Cole. The unfortunate injury to Marquise Lee. Does open up the door, and I think he's the most talented receiver that they have on the roster. One guy I keep my eye on late in drafts is Dante Moncrief. He's still really young. He could easily break out. I think that's the biggest risk. To Cole. Really making an impact from a fantasy perspective, but. I still think this offense will be driven by Fournette in the running game, which will unfortunately limit all the upside of any of the Jaguars wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely run-first offense still, but, I mean, the Jaguars offense suddenly looks enticing a little bit. It's kind of weird to say with Blake Bortles at the helm, but you see that. You like the Fournette. The offensive line got improved, and then the wide receivers, like you said, Moncrief's also interesting. But it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out this year. But what do you guys say about Keelan Cole, Dad? I know you like Keelan Cole, so.
I do. I mean, I got him in this 16th round in a draft 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, not anymore.
No, but that's a steal right there because he moved up, I think, 30 spots in a week, if I'm not mistaken. He's moving way up draft boards because the injury to Marquise Lee, I mean, he's going to be the top wide receiver there probably on the receiver depth chart. This could be a breakout season for the second-year player who should build on his rookie numbers where he caught 42 passes for 748 yards and 3 touchdowns. as an undrafted free agent. So that's not bad for Keenan Cole. Being undrafted to being maybe the top wide receiver in Jacksonville, that's pretty good.
Yeah, last week he was going at the 14.05, and now he's currently going at the 10.10. So he's jumped up. People are realizing that he's probably the guy to own, but hopefully the stock doesn't keep going up. But people's drafts are mainly over, so we'll see how that plays out.
I mean, you never like to see anybody get hurt, but he should capitalize on this.
Definitely should. So
I'm happy I got him in the 16th round a couple weeks ago.
So speaking about capitalizing, Dad, you got this last opportunity right here to talk about your third my guy and try to make a good pick right here. So what do you got?
All right, you tell me if it's a better pick than Marvin Jones. Another wide receiver I'm going to take right here, Jamison Crowder. All but 2 of his 280 targets have come from Kirk Cousins through his 3 seasons in the NFL. He ranks 25th in the league in receptions since entering the league. He's ranked 16th among PPR wide receivers from week 8 on last season. So he didn't have a great first half of the season, but the second half of the season he was pretty good. Early reports in camp said Smith and Crowder are building confidence in each other. Another stat, so Smith over the last 5 seasons with the Chiefs threw a lot of short to mid targets, which I believe favors Crowder. Maybe Doxson emerges this year and Richardson will get his targets, but if Crowder can maintain the role he enjoyed over the second half of last year, he could deliver consistent, low wide receiver 2 value at a solid price. So I'm all in on Jamison Crowder.
You're all in. What about you, Moody? Are you all in on them or you?
No, I am, because that was going to be one of the players that I was going to throw out there. He wasn't mentioned, so. No, I do agree. His production did dip in the third year. I know you mentioned about all the injuries, but I think one thing that I'm excited about is what the type of routes that Crowder excels at. Those short to intermediate routes. And Smith, tends to heavily target wide receivers in those areas of the football field. He obviously has some risk. Paul Richardson, Josh Dotson, Jordan Reed. But one other thing to consider is that Crowder is entering the contract year. And he's been drawing a lot of praise from Smith during OTAs, and that's transitioned over into training camp in the preseason. So he's one of my favorite values in PPR drafts.
Yeah, I love Crowder. He's going as the 32nd wide receiver up the board. He's also the longest tenured wide receiver on this roster now, and you've seen his targets increase each year he's been there. And another thing is, like you said, all those short intermediate routes. He plays in the slot, so that means he's not going against those top cornerbacks. And you see Alex Smith targeting those short passes, so I'm all in on Crowder this year. I think that he has the upside to be a top 24 wide receiver, but a nice floor as a wide receiver 3, I think, at worst case scenario. I think last year everyone was expecting him to break out. I think we were a year early. I think this is the year it actually happens, and I'm all in on the Crowder train this year.
There's going to be a lot of mouths to feed there, too. I mean, they're all going to get their share, so we'll just have to see what emerges out of there.
Very true.
Cousins is pretty consistent, so he likes to throw it short and down the middle. So
Smith.
I'm sorry, Smith. What'd I say?
You said Kirk Cousins.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So Eric, who's your third and final my guy? Let's see if you can give us one a bang at the end.
You know what? I was sitting there thinking, should I go with another running back, another wide receiver? I'll kind of pass the baton back to you briefly. I'm like, which position would you like me to cover? We can even throw a tight end in there too, if you want.
I'll let you. You can give us 2 if you really want to, because I don't know.
Give us a tight end and then another one of your choice.
All right, so let's go with. I'll go with the running back first, and then I'll share a tight end that I'm targeting quite heavily in drafts. One guy a running back, who I believe has been a tremendous value is Dion Lewis. I love the signing, by the Titans. They're paying him, big money for a running back. So whenever I see that kind of money thrown around, I'm like, he's going to get the usage. And so he's definitely a threat to touches for, Derrick Henry. I think Lewis's ability as a receiver, does provide him a higher floor and a higher ceiling than Henry, in my opinion. He signed that big deal. He will be, leveraged in that offense, by the new offensive coordinator, Matt LaFleur, who I'm excited to see, what he unveils as we approach the regular season with the Titans. One thing with Lewis that he leverages quite a bit in New England and even back in college was his agility. And so I know he led all running backs last year in yards created per carry, with 2.56, according to Player Profile. And so I really view him as a RB3, with tremendous upside. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities that he flirts with RB2 numbers as the season goes on.
Yeah, I mean, one of my dad's guys was Deion Lewis. I was a little bit off on him. I do like Deion Lewis. I just think that we've never seen him be healthy except for last year, so it's a little bit of an outlier. But you can't draft scared, and I do like the upside the offense has this year, so I agree with you. I do like him. I just don't know if I'm taking him in drafts. He is cheaper than Derrick Henry, so I'll probably take him over Derrick Henry 100%. But, Dad, you got to add anything else on Deion Lewis?
I love him over Derrick Henry. You might find this hard to believe, but his numbers were RB1 last year. I think he's going to get a bigger role than most fantasy owners are expecting, especially in a passing game where Henry is unproven. Henry only caught 24 passes over the last 2 seasons. Granted, it's a different team. Lewis was on New England, where he racked up 85 catches in 30 games, averaging 8.2 yards per catch. I mean, I love Deion Lewis this year also over Henry. Granted, he's not going to have Tom Brady there, but I think he's still got great value there in Tennessee.
Yeah, there you go. So, I like that pick. Who's the tight end you're targeting in these drafts?
Yeah, it's a couple. I'll kind of touch on one guy and I'll kind of pivot to another. I'd say one guy that I've been selecting quite a bit, and he's been essentially free, is Bills tight end Charles Clay. He was the Bills' leading receiver last year, which I think says more about how terrible the Bills' offense was, more so than Clay. But, you think back, he had 49 catches, for 558 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns on only 74 targets. He was the number 18 fantasy tight end in standard leagues. He's definitely more of a PPR play. I just know he was limited last year due to the knee injury. But
right.
Before that knee injury, he was very productive. I think the quarterback situation, whoever we have under center, I know that's been watched, quite a bit. I think he'll still be able to thrive. He'll be a very reliable weapon for that team who's basically looking for playmakers. You've got Zay Jones of everything that he's had going on off the field. He's been very inefficient. We all know, how poor his numbers have been. You got Kelvin Benjamin who's there, who will get his targets. Also another wide receiver there that's for really, really deep leagues is Jeremy Curley. I think he's going to dominate in the slot and 3 wide receiver sets. But I think it all will come down to Clay. I think he's going to see a healthy target share, and he's someone that you can pair with like a David Njoku and just play the matchups and really survive the tight end position.
Yeah, I love Charles Clay. He's going way late in drafts where he shouldn't be. I think he's like probably the most disrespected tight end in fantasy. You saw weeks 1 through 4 last year, he was a tight end 4 in fantasy football. Then you saw him get injured with that knee injury, missed 3 games, and then week 12 was his first game back with the snap percentage above 70%. So weeks 12 through 17, he was tight end 11. And then if you get those 10 games with that snap percentage, he would have been a tight end 9 in fantasy points per game. And that's a stat right there from Derek Brown again. So I'm all in on Charles Clay, especially if you punt the tight end position, which I think you should if you don't get Gronk in the late 2nd, early 3rd. So I love that right there.
Yeah, agreed.
I wouldn't want him as my tight end 1, but I wouldn't mind him as a tight end 2. He may not have had the best numbers last season, but prior to his injuries, before he got hurt, the Bills were peppering this guy with targets. Once he returned, he really quite wasn't himself. But over the final 3 weeks of the season, I believe he saw 27 targets, which has to encourage fantasy owners. And in the fact that the Bills still have limited receiving weapons, Clay doesn't make a bad tight end late in the draft.
No.
Yeah, I'll add one thing. He does have some risk. I think the positives is that he has had greater than a 20% target share each year since joining Buffalo back in 2015. One concern I do have, we'll see if this continues, with the new offensive regime there, is that, the Bills just didn't pass enough, last year. They had the lowest pass to run ratio in the league. And so if we do get a little bit more passing volume, with the scheme that they're running, I anticipate that will happen because it plays a lot on mismatches. And so I could see him getting some additional run, but no, I think he can outperform his ADP.
They're probably going to be behind a lot in a lot of their games too, so they're going to have to throw.
Yeah, I just hope Josh Allen can throw it to him. That kind of scares me, but the targets will be there. I think. I'm not a big Josh Allen fan. My guy. I have two wide receivers I wrote down. I think one of them I did a little bit of stats on last My Guys episode, and that was Nelson Aguilar. I absolutely love him, but I'm gonna go with this other guy as my final My Guy, and that's gonna be Tyler Lockett. The dude's gonna get the volume. I think that's the key right here. He's still free in drafts going in the 12th round. He also just got a contract extension, which I think says something about how the team feels about him. Most people expected them to let him go and go into free agency, but they just signed him to a 3-year deal. You saw Doug Baldwin come out to the media, who I love Doug Baldwin before all this injury stuff, but he just admitted he wasn't 100%. It's going to be probably 80-85% all season long, so that's not something you want to see. And he's still free, and I think at best in the whole entire career at Seattle, he's been the 4th target. And there's 176 targets up for grabs, which is more than 40% of the targets last year. And you see Baldwin, like I said, with the injury, and Penny's not looking that good in a defense that sucks, which means you're going to see more volume in this offense. And I think that he's finally fully healthy. He reports already since that leg injury he suffered in 2016. Last season, you saw his game speed go down. I think that's because he wasn't 100% healthy. So he's back, and he ranked wide receiver 7 in success rate versus man coverage last year, even with recovering from that injury. And he's free right now, and I wouldn't even mind taking him in the 9th round if he does rise up to that stock price. And I think he's going to get the volume, and he's going to be wide receiver 3 at worst this year. So what do you guys say about that?
He's another late round good pick. We haven't really had any differences here. This is pretty good. We're all agreeing on everything just about. His rookie year, he was exceptional. Then he got hurt, like you said. There's a chance he takes a big step forward this year with limited competition and one of the best passing offenses in football. Russell Wilson was the #1 quarterback last year, so you know he's going to throw the ball. Jimmy Graham is gone. I like Tyler Lockett right there to get a lot of receptions. That's good for fantasy.
Yeah, because they've got the Seahawks. They have 217 targets that are available. From last year. With the departures that they had. So he'll get some run. In that regards. He'll have some targets depending on Baldwin's health. He may even have more opportunity. Just one thing I thought was fascinating about Lockett that I tweeted out a couple of days ago. Was that he leads the NFL in all-purpose yards over the last 3 seasons.
Oh wow!
I did not know that.
Big return.
Yeah, I was very surprised. I know he was used quite heavily, as like a multifaceted weapon, in college. But yeah, I think he's another guy that can outperform his ADP quite a bit.
Yeah, there you go. So that sums it up for our My Guys. You got a little bonus one from Eric right there with the Charles Clay pick. I like them all. Definitely some good tidbits. No quarterbacks in this one, which is good to see. But I'll hit on that real quick. Eric, who's the one late round quarterback you're looking to target if you employed a strategy to wait on QB?
Yeah, I generally wait, on the position. I think we got a lot of good value that's out there. Guys like Phillip Rivers, who's always been consistent.
That's my dad's guy.
He's, still tied to a great offense, so the volume will be there. I think one guy that'll bounce back quite a bit in the second year underneath the Sarkisian regime would be Matt Ryan. I think Ben Roethlisberger is another good value too. There's quite a bit that's out there. I'll dive a little bit deeper on the one guy that's really, really late, that's essentially free, is like Eli Manning. Just given his body of work and the weapons that he has, he's really being put in a position to be successful. I just think people may shy away from him just given the past couple of seasons, but I think he is going to be a fantasy monster with all those weapons.
I couldn't agree more.
As Giants fans, I like to hear
everything on paper is setting him up. Odell, top 10 wide receiver. Ingram, top 10 tight end. Barkley, potentially top 5 running back. Everything lines up in his court. A little better offensive line, a running game this year. Eli should have a good year this year.
Oh yeah,
I don't think he gets a lot of credit that he deserves. This year he's going to prove it because all he did the previous 2-3 seasons was throw the ball. So of course you're going to make mistakes and throw some interceptions. And did he throw some stupid ones? Absolutely. But without a running game, all you're going to do is throw.
Yeah. I think you hit it right there.
The Giants are going to be fun to watch. They're at least going to win more than 3 games than they did last year.
Yeah.
That is the goal. So I want to thank Eric again for taking time out of his busy schedule to come on and do this episode. Hopefully it wasn't too long for the listeners and we got some good information out there. So thank you, Eric. And where can they find you again on Twitter and all that? And what are you doing in the fantasy community?
Oh, yeah. Thanks for allowing me to come on. I always appreciate the invite. It's always good talking ball. So, you can find me on Twitter at Eric N. Moody. Always very happy to answer questions, start, sit questions or anything else that's on your mind. So I got a lot that's going on this season. I'll be writing a column for Rotoviz titled Connect the Dots, for where I'll just look at different statistical metrics each week and just evaluate. So that'll actually get started for next week. I'll be doing a column at Fantasy Pros about analyzing Vegas lines. I'll go through the process that I use to look at the over, unders, spreads, and just how to leverage that from a DFS perspective. I'll also be writing a targets analysis column for Gridiron Experts as well, just to break down, targets, air yards and other metrics, just to be able to give, readers recommendations on who to target from a fantasy perspective. So do have a lot that's going on, and also in the process of trying to get some things going on YouTube. So more to come there.
All right, guys. Yeah, big thank you to Eric for coming on the show today and doing this with us, taking time out of his busy schedule. As you guys heard, he basically writes for everyone in the industry, it feels like. So
he's a busy guy.
A lot of guys we have in the show are really, really busy. So once again, go follow him on Twitter at Eric N. Moody. Follow me on Twitter at JustinFSFF, and the podcast Twitter's at FatherSonFF. We'll follow you back on there. We are affiliated with the Quant Edge now. There's no promo code yet, but once there is, as time of recording, there isn't. So if there is, I'll leave it in the description below. Go check out their tools. A lot of good stuff on this website to help you win these DFS matchups against these pros. So I'll get that in the description below. But big thank you for listening. And if you guys are still here, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Go to our YouTube channel. Try to post some more content on there. But we're mainly going to be focusing on the podcast because we're busier now and it's podcast season.
Yeah, because you're back in college now, so we're very busy.
Very, very busy. So thanks for listening.
Try to get as much out as we can.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. If you want to leave us a 5-star review, we greatly appreciate that, and we'll also read it out on the show. So if you want to hear your shout out, we'll do that for you. So yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll take you guys out now.